Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Here I am in not so sunny Kent in the southeast of England. August has been a bit of a washout, if I'm honest. And of course, kids go back to school next week. So it's everyone was hoping for a last little flurry of great weather. Other parts of the UK have had splendid weather. It's just been us here in this southeast corner where it's been a bit grey and a bit miserly and a bit murky, so not altogether good. If you're joining me live, then say hi. It'd be nice to know who's here live. As you can see from my background, I'm in my home office today with the window open. There's some construction work going on in a house just a couple over, so if it gets too intrusive, then let me know and I'll get up and close the window. But it's kind of warm and muggy, but yeah, just nice to leave the window open. So what am I talking about this week? Well, I was due to have been on leave last week and this week, so there was going to be very little work going on. Hasn't turned out that way at all. Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know the sound is fine. Great. Yeah, so in fact, today is my husband's birthday and I really wasn't supposed to be working today, but he's on the golf course. So I thought, well, whilst he's on the golf course, I might just as well pop in here and do my lessons from a Lurker. We've got a lovely lunch planned tomorrow. So we're going to be celebrating tomorrow and yesterday because it was a bank holiday here in England. We had our youngest grandson come over who's just 2 months old. So it was a lovely day yesterday and saw one of the other grandchildren at the weekend, the 4-year-old. So I just haven't seen the eldest recently, but they're busy living their lives. So I can understand why. So what's been going on this week? Well, I think last week you may remember that I was very excited because I had an article published, the first article published in Inside Government's Education Hub, which was fantastic because it gave me permission to start talking about the extroversion bias in schools. And one of the things that I was quite cheeky at the end of writing it because I only had 750 words and it was a lot to write in. So I said, it would be really good actually if there could be a part 2. I'm not sure if I shared this with you last time. If I did, forgive me. But the good news is they've agreed to a part 2. So I've now got another 750 words to write. So that's done several things for me. It's kind of given me some impetus about making sure that this message around the extroversion bias is getting out into schools, to the educators, and also to the parents. So on the back of that, I also recorded a podcast that goes out to people entering the workplace for the first time and their parents. And so I was able to reference this particular article, which was so helpful. But more than that, what it did was it encouraged me to get my freebie out there, because I've got just a quick downloadable about 3 secrets to raising an introvert child. It's just meant as a kind of teaser to some of the work we can do together. So if you're watching this and that applies to you, either because of your own children or maybe siblings, or maybe in my case kind of with grandkids, etc., then just let me know in the comments. And if you're watching on replay, #replay, let me know that you want a copy and I'll figure out a way to make sure that there's a copy available to you in Introvert's Corner. And it's just 3 basic tips, but what it's doing is it's starting to kickstart again that work I'm doing with education, because if we shift this extroversion bias in schools, by the time those students, those pupils get into the workplace, they will know better. They will know that actually there's nothing wrong with introverts. We're not broken in need of fixing, that actually what we need to do is learn how to value and difference and really respect that difference. Therefore, it will cease to become such a problem in the workplace. So thank you. And I can't remember who suggested I start working with education, but I'm so pleased they did, because actually I think that's such a sound philosophy. I've also, which I'll be sharing in a moment, there's a podcast episode with Emma Last, Human Reboot, which is going live either today or tomorrow. I will be just about to share an excerpt and the audiogram and a bit of a taster of what you're going to get on that. And again, with all of these things, you know, make sure you can share them as widely as possible. Oh, I'm sorry, before I go on, I'm just going to share this. I don't know who it is because it just says Facebook user. Oh, fantastic. Now I could hazard a guess that that's Paul Hornsey Pennell, because yes, I thought it was, because Paul and I had a conversation, I guess it was back end of last week. Paul does some amazing work with clients in different kind of streams, and as one of his things is Lifestyle University, and I do a bit. It's pre-recorded, a conversation that we had, and I do a bit as part of that. And what's amazing is, as Paul has said, you know, there have been people who have been in tears, who have said, you know, thank you, I just feel so much lighter, I feel relief now, I feel like I can be myself. So it's so wonderful that that the work we're doing is making that difference. Now that's to an older age group. Can you imagine if we can help people feel better when they're younger, which is absolutely the work I'm intending to do. So this other episode that I was starting to tell you about, this other podcast where I've been interviewed, the Human Reboot, that goes live either later today or tomorrow. And that's a really, really interesting conversation, because partway through the interviewer, Emma, goes, I'm beginning to wonder if I'm a bit of an introvert. And it's funny, you know, the more conversations I have, the more people start to really think about, actually, if I take off the mask, if I take off the kind of the borrowed cloak I'm wearing, what am I really? Am I an introvert in need of my own time, and I've just been pretending all this time? Maybe I'm an extroverted introvert and I still need that time, but I can kind of, you know, behave in more extroverted ways. But anything we can do that rebooting who humans are, I think, is fantastic. And then the other thing I shared in Introvert's Corner today, which I strongly encourage you to have a listen to, is an interview that I did with Mitadru Day, who was talking about, he lives in New York, he grew up in India, lives in New York, works with a big investment bank. And one of the things that he's really really engaged with now is, and I've forgotten the term, I'm going to have to look it up, how weird is that, but is no, it's gone, doesn't matter, have a listen. It's a typical kind of 30-minute conversation that I'm having with Mitadru, and as I was listening to it, even though I was there in the moment, I felt so relaxed, I felt inspired, and I just wanted our conversation to continue. So I really encourage you to have a listen to that particular episode. I've put a post in Introvert's Corner. The full episode link is in the comments. So have a listen. It's it's 30 minutes well worth listening to. It raises some questions because it's all about living selflessly. And somebody asked me a question which I'm going to address at some stage, which is, if everything I do is from a position of selflessness, where does that leave us in terms of boundaries and self-care? And I think that's a great question. But do you know what I found is that there's something about, actually, it comes back to that, the plane analogy and the oxygen masks. You know, I can't operate from a selfless position until I'm recharged. So personally, I don't view living selflessly as meaning I can't have boundaries, or I can't recharge, or I can't do that self-care that I need. So have a listen. It may raise some questions for you, and I think it would be fabulous if we can then have some conversations about it. So I am going to have the rest of the week off because, as I say, today is hubby's birthday. He's on the golf course, but I'm taking him for a lovely lunch tomorrow in apparently one of the UK's best restaurants. So I'm looking forward to that. Better put my elastic trousers on for that, I think. And then I'm having a fairly quiet rest of the week because from that first full week in September onwards, it goes bonkers. So it really is going to be full on, absolutely. So there may well be some more lurking for me to talk about. But at the moment, I'm balancing where I lurk. So I'm not lurking just to hide. I'm lurking to preserve my energy. And when I need to become visible, where I need to be out there, I'm doing that. And I'm proper proud of how I'm doing that. So that's enough from me, I think, today. Thank you so much for joining me, Paul. It's lovely to see you here. I know a couple of other people are here as well, but haven't commented as yet. But if you're watching on replay, as I say, hashtag replay, let me know when you listen to that episode 81 with Mitadru Day, and just let me know what you think, because for me it had a very profound effect. Oh, hang on a minute. This will be Paul's question. A question that I'm now being asked often is everyone an introvert at heart? Oh, hang on a minute. Max is scratching at the door. What's up, Max? What's up, Max? Oh dear, he doesn't like to be left out. Let's get back to Paul's question now. This is because people who now think they were extrovert are not thinking that being extrovert is odd. So do you think that it may be that there is no such thing as an extrovert? Oh, the short answer, oh, Max, I've got a very needy cat here. The short answer is that no, I absolutely believe there are extroverts, because what I've noticed is that there are people who only get recharged when they're in the busy hustle bustle, and it doesn't matter who they're with. And being quiet drives them absolutely cranky, drives them absolutely insane. So I honestly think there are people who aren't overstimulated mentally already, therefore need that social interaction in order to recharge their batteries. And am I going to say this without sounding in some way kind of judgmental or pejorative? I'm not sure that I can say it, actually. It's my belief, there we are, I'll go with that. It's my belief that introverts, because we introspect, because we are interested in understanding who we are and what makes us tick, are more reflective and more likely to hold questions like that. Whereas so I think we are more curious about who we are, about what makes humanity tick. I'm not so sure extroverts are, but as I say, that can sound very judgmental. I don't mean it to sound judgmental. So I think extroverts are in the minority. They just make more noise about it and insist others need the same. I agree, they make more noise about it. And for some reason, society has deemed that the extrovert ideal is what's healthy and good for society and business and all that nonsense. I mean, look at our obsession with making sure our children are socialized, which means they can talk to anyone, anytime, about everything, you know, all that sort of stuff. And then we go through a big education program, but don't talk to strangers. Don't you do this? Don't you do that? So there is so much work to do with education, but the stats will tell us, the data will tell us that extroverts are not in a minority. It's fairly evenly split. So the latest data I saw was that in the UK, 47% of people identify as an introvert, over 51% in the US. Different cultures have different predispositions in terms of, you know, what how their cultures break down, but roughly it's kind of 50-50 split. So I don't think necessarily that there are way more extroverts than there are introverts, but I do agree it's because they are the noisier in society, in business, in the world. We hear from them more often. We then get kind of seduced into that whole way of, well, that's the way we ought to be. That's what's normal. Who decided that it was introverts who are neurodiverse? Why isn't it the extroverts? Now, one of the things, another reason why you must listen to Mitadru's interview with me on the podcast is he shared some fascinating data, which is the term introvert, if we track it back to its etymology, started or was found way before the word extrovert. So there's a little bit of my evidence that actually introverts and introversion was the norm for, you know, maybe a longer time, because that's what we encourage people to do, was to look inward and be reflective and understand themselves better. Sorry, the cat's still moaning here. And then it's only at some stage later on that, you know, the extroversion bias became the norm. If I think back even, gosh, I'm going off on one now. You've started something now, haven't you, Mr. Hornsey Pennell? If I think back to my childhood, yes, Max, we know. Are you going to come up here and say hello then? Is that what this is about? You're too heavy to lift up though, mate, now, aren't you? If I think back to the programs of my childhood, Watch with Mother, a very gentle program, or was it Listen with Mother? Oh, I can't remember now. But it was kind of, you know, it was almost like bedtime stories, and it was pre-afternoon nap. It was lovely. It was kind of just after, I don't know, midday or 1 o'clock or something. And then Tales by the Riverbank, which I think was narrated by Johnny Morris. I can't remember, but that name seems to come to mind. But the programs were all very slow and gentle, and they were designed to relax us. And, you know, for me, that worked perfectly. You watch kids' programs today, and it's all kind of, you know, fast paced, rush, rush, busy, busy, frantic, absolutely frantic. So for introverted children these days, that must be really tough, because remember, introverts are already overstimulated mentally, and their programming coming at them is just like that the whole time. So, gosh, how difficult is that? Listen with Mother. Thank you, Melanie. I loved it. I don't know about you, but I absolutely loved it. And, you know, I tell the story often that one of the ways I knew I was different as a child is I would take myself to bed early to read, because it felt like a real treat. And so began my love affair of Enid Blyton books. And I've still got my original hard copy, hardback copy, red, kind of that slightly cardboardy stuff that had a texture to it, of The Magic Faraway Tree. Still one of my favorite books. In fact, I wrote a blog about it on my website around kind of The Magic Faraway Tree and its impression on me and what it means from an introvert perspective. Anyway, I've gone off on a complete one answering your question, Paul. So thank you for asking it. And, you know, I don't think there are more of them, but you're right, they are noisier. And it's about us claiming our place, claiming our space, but not competitively, noisily with them, but being heard, being recognized, being seen, but in a way that everyone gets it, I think. So Carol's just said yes. Let me just share that. That's why I play soft music on my TV, because I can't listen to disturbing news. Oh, I know. And of course, our media is interested in hyping everything, putting spin on it. So How often do we hear good news? We don't, because, you know, the old story is that good news doesn't sell. And what we need is drama. What we need is hype. What we need is catastrophe somewhere in the world, and then we're all happy. Well, not this person. So like you, Carol, you know, I'll watch the news occasionally because I think it's important that I am understanding of what's going on, but I certainly don't become obsessed with it. And I certainly don't believe everything I hear or read, because that's not the way media works these days. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Listen to that episode of me talking to Mitadru Day. Fascinating episode, and certainly I absolutely loved it. I may even put the link in here in the comments so that you can find it easily, but I have put an audiogram post in Introvert's Corner so that you can find it. Thank you for being here. As usual, I'll leave it just to run on a few moments, because StreamYard, if I end the broadcast now for you, the listeners, because there's a delay, it'll cut off halfway through. So I'll mute myself, put the thank you page up, and end the broadcast in a moment. See you next week, everyone.